Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about focus in the aspect of taking baby steps. I've been thinking about this a long time. In fact, it goes all the way back to 2006, and I'll tell you a little bit about that story in a few moments. How are you doing on your New Year's resolutions? Here it is, the 22nd of January. Are you staying focused? The reason I ask is because a lot of times people get focused at the top of the year, at the end of the year, and they have these great ideas, but they don't follow through. Or they go to a seminar, they pick up a book, or they listen to a cassette, that dates me. Or worse yet, they'll download something and they'll never read it, or they'll never take the course, they'll never follow through. Sound familiar? So I've been asking this question for a long time. Why is it? Why is it that some people, they get really clear on what they want and they actually change it? They get focused and they stay focused over the long period of time, where the majority of people, they don't do that at all. They'll go to a workshop, maybe their boss is putting it on or something's going on, and they watch it online and they get really, really excited. And then later on, a day later, a week later, they're back to where they were before. Last year I was taking a course and I asked the guy, there was questions and answers afterwards, and I just posed the question because I'm always looking to learn and to find out what people think. And I said, why do you think that execution is so low? Meaning people will read a book, but they won't do what the book says. Or they'll take a class, they just won't do it, And he said something I've never heard before, and I want to share this with you, and hopefully it'll help you. It did for me. He said, I think what happens is people get really excited. They get like a dopamine hit to go online, buy a course for $97, or to attend a workshop for $500 or $5,000, whatever it is. There's this dopamine hit that's really exciting, And then they'll go through the workshop, maybe it's 2 or 3 days or a couple hours, or maybe it's just buying a download for a couple dollars. And then Monday morning rolls around and they don't have that dopamine hit anymore. They don't. It's not there. It's not there at all. There's kind of like a lull. Like, okay, yes, I took that course last week, or I bought that book, or I downloaded that course, but it's Monday. And so what they seek to do, and this is what this gentleman explained to me, what they seek to do is they look for another dopamine hit. It's like, well, maybe I should buy this. Maybe this is the answer to my problem. And then they'll buy this course and that course. They say people that are involved in the personal development industry, they'll spend 20 years buying things. So that's pretty good. If you find somebody that's really interested in this field, that's a long run. That's 2 decades. And the reason I'm laughing is because I kind of dipped my toes in the water back in 1999, around that time, and it's been over 20 years. So I get it, I understand what it's like to buy courses and have things on my laptop that I haven't got to today, and I'm going to get to it someday, So back to my story. I opened up my lecture last week with this story, and I want to open it up here with you as well. It was one of the most exciting days of my life. It was really my big break as a speaker. It was 2006. It was in Philadelphia. I was speaking in front of a large group of business people, and I got to share the stage with one of my heroes. And after it was over, people came up to me, they wanted to talk to me, and then the gentleman that I shared the stage with, who will remain anonymous, said, "So how do you think you did?" I says, I think I did really good. I felt really good about it. People loved it. They were excited. And I sold $10,000 worth of product in the back of the room, or at the back of the room. That was the first time that's ever happened, 2006. So he said, good for you. Good for you. And then I said to him, I can't help to think that these people are so excited and pumped up and they're focused, but many of them will not stay focused the long term. And I kind of posed it as a question, and he didn't answer me. He was eating popcorn. He was just constantly just putting the popcorn in his mouth, and ignored me. And it really bothered me. I don't know if that would bother you. But because he didn't answer the question, and maybe that was the reason why he didn't answer the question, maybe he wanted me to figure out what the answer was. Or maybe he knew the answer and he just didn't want to tell me. I don't know. I never asked him. But I spent many years really struggling with this. Why do some people do really well in sales, or really well in their life? Their physical life is great. They're in shape. They're really healthy. They spend a lot of time focusing on that. Or their relationships, or they have really great wealth management skills. They spend less than they take in. They're not in credit card debt. They have some assets. Or people who are happy, or people that are just kind of living their purpose. And then you have other people that they're negative, or if they're not negative, they're really excited. But when the excitement goes away, so does the focus. So does the focus. And I kind of think a lot has to do with having a dopamine hit. It's like, I got to buy that next product. I got to do that next seminar. I got to figure something out here. And it's almost like an addiction, if you think about it. It's an addiction that, wow, what's the next fix? What's the next hit? It's this secret. You go online. This is the secret to building your business. This is the secret. This is the thing that's going to help you. And in reality, the solution is really simple. The solution is taking baby steps. When somebody walks out of a seminar, maybe they're making $50,000 a year or $60,000 a year or something like that, and they get this dream that they're going to be a millionaire. They're like, I want to be a millionaire. I'm going to invest in real estate. I'm going to do this and that. And come Monday morning, they're not a millionaire, and they get a little discouraged. They get a little upset that it didn't happen overnight. So the answer in my mind is baby steps. Simple steps that a person can take every single day to get closer and closer and closer to what you want. So let's take the example of, well, there's two examples I'm thinking of. One is money, the other one is weight. And the reason why I'm picking money or weight is because you can measure it. If you set a goal like, I want to be more happier, it's kind of hard to, track that. But you can track your weight. You get on a scale. And the same thing with your wealth, your finances, you can track that as well. So let's take weight, for example. Let's say somebody wants to lose like 80 pounds or 50 pounds like that. And they get really excited. They're all pumped up. They're getting focused about it. But then, they drive by the Dunkin' Donuts, or they drive by the fast food, or they go to somebody's house for a birthday party, and, they just completely fall apart. 80% of the people that set New Year's Eve resolutions by February, they are done. And then you got the rest of the year, and then December 31st, you set the same, I shouldn't laugh, but you set the same resolution. The answer is to get some small wins and to take baby steps so that you don't feel like you're trying to push this rock up a hill, this impossible thing. I remember, I want to say it was 20 years ago. It was probably 20 years ago that I wrote down in my journal that I wanted to go to Fiji and Rome and Greece and Ireland and Israel. I listed like 15, 20 places. At the time, I didn't have the means, didn't have the wherewithal, I didn't have the money, didn't have the time. It was just a dream. Now, a baby step would be maybe to go talk to a travel agent. Get some information about a destination. Not all of those destinations, but maybe just one of them. It's just a small step that you can take, which is going to get you closer to what you're doing. Like if you want to buy a car, maybe you want to buy a brand new Corvette, you go and talk to a dealer, you sit in the car. I know it sounds crazy, but these small wins, these baby steps are very helpful. And here's why. It takes time to create a habit. It takes time to make this happen. I remember my dad saying to me when I was a kid, Rome was not built in a day. I remember, my dad was part of the Depression era. So he had a really solid head on his shoulders. I mean, he wasn't the kind of guy that would pick up Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, or he wasn't the kind of guy that would pick up a motivational book and read it. He didn't need it. He got up in the morning, went to work, he provided for his family. He was just a common sense person. And he used to say to me all the time, Rome was not built in a day. Not at all. And it's this idea that if you want something, and I think you really have to be hungry for it. Les Brown talks about being hungry for it. Tony Robbins talks about being hungry in Business Mastery. It's this idea that you really, really want something, and you have to know why you want it, like the weight loss or the money or whatever it is. And you also have to realize that it's not going to happen unless you got a magic wand and some fairy dust, or you win the lottery. It's not necessarily going to happen in the next 24 hours. That when the excitement of the seminar fades away, you have to get up Monday morning and do something, or Monday afternoon, or Monday night, or if you're working in the weekends or you're working at the evenings, you literally have to do something. Another example is, let's say you say, I want to be an author. I want to be an author. I want to write a book. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I can write a 300-page book. Can you write 50 pages? Can you write 5 pages? Can you write 1 page? Can you write a paragraph? Okay, can you write a sentence? So it becomes ridiculous when you think about this, because you're kind of like chunking it down to what you can actually manage. And a lot of times we make these stories up in our head that, oh, I can't do that. It's not going to work. And we have all these different thoughts in our head that are maybe not true. A lot of times we actually can do something. We just don't think we can do it. So baby steps in the relationship to the book would be, can you spend 10 minutes writing? Can you spend 5 minutes writing? Can you spend an hour writing? I think when people get in trouble is when they overwhelm themselves. They're like, I'm going to sit here from 9 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, and I'm going to write the first chapter. And how long does that last? Or a person that turns around and says, well, I'm going to run a marathon, and every day I'm going to get up and I'm going to run 5 miles or 10 miles. Maybe you need to start by walking. So you're setting yourself up with small steps that are moving you in the direction of what you want. And you're also going to learn that some of the things you're doing might not bring you the results that you want. Like, for instance, I started, I think it was 2016, I started doing public speaking on the topic of focus and, communication and that sort of thing. And when I first went out and did it, it was great, but it took time to refine it. It took time to make it better or to tighten it. And I think it's the same thing with anything. You got to look bad first. That's really what I want to say. You have to look bad first. And I think most people, they don't want to look bad. They want to walk out and they want to be the expert speaker or the expert author or the person that's in sales that's doing really well, a person that's got all their stuff together. And I think you have to realize that people who look very successful, they've practiced in secret daily disciplines, as Jim Rohn used to talk about. Baby steps over and over and over, and they compound over time to get what you want. And I think people have to realize that Rome is not built in a day. So I want to show you my calendar. One of the things I talked about last week and the week before was this idea that, it's a simple idea, it's not very complicated, that I want to stay away from this coffee shop. At least I don't want to go on a daily basis, because I had developed a habit. Without even thinking, I developed a habit of just going to this coffee shop every single day. They walked in, they knew my name, they knew the order, and I thought to myself, this is kind of crazy. What I did is every day, starting Sunday, the 1st of January, when I didn't go into the coffee store, I put a X. And then I linked them for the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th. I did it every single day for the first week. So I have a win here. Now, it's not a big win. It's not like, I won the lottery and I'm going to move to, the Virgin Islands or something like that. It's a small step that's going to help me get closer to maybe my ideal weight or having more money in the bank. But think about it. You go somewhere every day, spend a lot of money, you throw it out the window. We were talking about this today, the latte factor. If you want to save money and you want to increase your wealth, just cut out something and put that money in a piggy bank. And at the end of the year, you'll be surprised what you have. And so the second week, the 8th, 9th, the 10th, 11th, 12th, I just kept on just crossing this out till I got to, today is Chinese New Year, the 22nd of January. The 22nd of January. That's pretty good. So this is something I learned from hearing about it from Jerry Seinfeld. I forget what he was doing, but what he would do is he would put a X on the calendar every single day so that he would not want to break the chain. And I think that's what's really important, is if you look at the calendar and somebody says, hey, you want to do this, and you look at your calendar and you got all these X's and it's all like a chain, you say, no, I don't want to do that because I want to stay with what I'm doing. So let's do this. Let's take a fast commercial. We'll be right back.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingpersonsradio.com. Do you wish you could sharpen your focus on what matters most to you and achieve more? Then you owe it to yourself to read Greg's ebook at greatdwyerebook.com. That's www.greatdwyerebook.com. Download it today and give it away. As always, we want to thank you for listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Persons Radio. Motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Now back to our show. Take it away, Greg.
So we're talking about taking baby steps. We're talking about focus, and I think anybody can get focused. I don't think it's hard to get focused at all. Everybody can do it. Staying focused, that's the issue. And what separates people who get and stay focused versus the masses who are onto something else? And I think it comes down to one thing. Are you ready? It's mastery. It's mastery. It's focusing on something that's really important to you. And the reason why you don't get distracted is because it is important to you. Now, this is just my opinion, but I think in our society today, with how people are so connected to the internet and so connected to all of their electronics, that people's attention span is really low. Like if you ever watch television, I don't watch TV, but if you watch television, you'll notice that the camera moves. I used to do this television show, cable show, a couple years ago before COVID, and they talked about the fact that the camera had to move, or at least go from camera 1, 2 to 3. The reason why is because people's attention span, they can't just watch something for a half an hour, 15 minutes, like a straight shot, because people get bored. They need different viewpoints. So the camera, moves for this reason, gives people variety. Yeah, we all know that, but even now, people are so wired to stimulation of instant gratification. And I had this conversation with someone today, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. When a person is distracted, like a rabbit, not a rabbit, a squirrel, it's like they're looking here, they're all over the place. If that becomes a habit, in other words, if you're a young child or even an adult and your attention span is, 5 seconds, right? You're probably not going to do much in life. I know that sounds harsh, but how the heck could you? I mean, you could get up in the morning and go to work for somebody. Probably you could do that, right? And you could listen to someone tell you what to do and you'd have supervisors. But like if you want to write a book or you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be your own boss where no one is telling you what to do, right? If you're an entrepreneur, like I don't have a boss. I'm self-employed. No one is saying, listen, we want to meet tomorrow to talk about your production, or it doesn't exist in my life, which is for good reason, because I don't want that. I never wanted that. But people who have an attention span of a goldfish, or, because they're looking at this and looking at that, I mean, if Rome was not built in a day, you have to have focus, 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 day 1, day 2, again and again and again and again and again. And the hard thing is you may not see results right away. You may not see results. I have a friend of mine that's doing some calls for me, and I said to her, I says, you may not see, and I know this for a fact, you're not going to see results the first time you pick up the phone and do follow-up calls. The second day or the third day or the next week, you may see no results. Like, You pick up the phone, you're dialing, you're smiling, you're talking to people, no results, no results, no results. How often would that have to happen before someone quit because they're on commission? You know, the average person would say, this, I'm not spending my time doing this. So there's this lag time, and the lag time is that you have to do something and you see no results. You have to do something and you see no results. You have to have faith. You have to have faith that by doing it over and over again, you're getting closer to what you want, or you're kind of figuring out what's not working so that you can adjust what you're doing. So I think the reason why most people get focused and they don't stay focused is because they dabble. They're on to the next thing. They're on, and they have a really short attention span, and they can't stay focused because I think we are creating a culture of people who just don't have that as a skill. And I really believe that if you're going to be an artist, or you're going to write a book, or you're going to do anything worthwhile where someone isn't telling you what to do and you have to be self-motivated and focused on your own time, you got to really love it. Like, you got to fall in love with it. And I think that's really the key. You fall in love with the process, and you realize that you're not going to get it overnight. It's going to take time, because mastery, I was sitting with somebody last night and they said, you really know this. Like, you exhale and inhale and you've studied. I says, I've been studying this for 20 years. 20 years. And no dabbling in 100%. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not perfect. But the goal has always been mastery. In fact, I was thinking about this afternoon. It's almost like I have a master's degree in what I'm talking about, because I've spent a lot of years marinating myself in this information that I'm sharing with you. And I know you're an expert at things that I'm not, so, it is what it is. I really think that if you're going to get what you want, you have to be really clear. You have to be crystal clear like a diamond, and you have to realize it's not going to happen overnight. You got to stay focused, and it's a process and a journey. And one of the ways, I think, to keep track is to write things down, to journal. And mastery is probably the goal that you want to look for. And what do you want to master your life in? I just think there's 5 areas. I don't think that it's really complicated. You want to focus on your health. You have to focus on that, because if you don't have that, you have nothing. The other thing that I think is important is relationships and family and friends. That's really important for your emotional health and stability. And the other one is wealth. You want to create wealth. You want to create assets. You don't want to be living in the red your whole life and struggling. I don't think you do. And then you want to be happy. And then you want to have a purpose and a mission. So for me, I think of these 5 areas that you have to focus on and improve every single day, every single week, every single month. And you check in at the end of the year, December, hey, how did I do? And you reset your goals, and then you, or you can just drift. You can just drift, and you can say, wow, I really didn't get clear on anything. And, you're sitting in the nursing home, or you're sitting in the rocking chair, and you're saying, I wish I went on that trip, or I wish I wrote that book. Or I wish I had the courage to step out and actually make something happen. I always wanted to be a speaker, always wanted to be, in shape. I always wanted to ask that person out. I always wanted to do that, but I kind of didn't. And I think I think if I could get back my time, and I'm just being honest with you, if I could get back my time, I wouldn't have spent the last 5 years on Facebook. As I look at social media and I go, it's fun, you connect with people, but boy, the last 5 years, I've spent a lot of time just looking at posts and posting things and connecting and following people. And I think to myself, if I could have just taken that time, I could have probably built a wall in my backyard, or I could have built a porch. I probably could have built an extension on my house, So there's only so much time, and I'm looking at the time. We have 5 minutes left. And I would just simply say this. I think the secret is baby steps. It's recognizing that what you want isn't going to happen most likely overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. And so what you do is you find something that's really easy for you to do. You know, a friend of mine was talking last week, it was last Wednesday, he was talking about this process which kind of inspired me. And he said his New Year's resolutions for the year, he has a calendar as well, is to simply go to the gym every single day. Go to the gym. So he's, you know, chalking it off or crossing it off every single day to keep track. And then one day he just didn't have time, you know, so what he did is he drove through the parking lot of the gym and he thought to himself, well, that's enough, you know, that's enough, I'll just do that. And then he decided he would go into the gym. And so for him, that was the easy baby step that he did so that he could stay focused. Find something that you love and fall in love with it, because it's going to take some time. Maybe you want to write a book or create a garden or get into real estate or public speaking or whatever it is. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. Just realize that getting focused is really easy. Anybody can do that. Anybody could get a dopamine hit and look for the next course or the next download or the next book or the next seminar. That's not a problem. That's what most people do. Just don't be like most people. Don't focus so much on dabbling and going to the next thing. Focus on one thing and work towards mastery. I would think it's like if you think of a magnifying glass. If you had a magnifying glass in your hand and you kind of moved it around like this and like this, you'd probably get nowhere on a sunny day. But if you take that same magnifying glass and maybe you focus it on some straw or you focus it on some paper, you know, like some flash paper or something like that, and you just held it there, you know, maybe you could get a beam that would burn that flash paper or maybe, you know, that hay or whatever you have there. I think that's the key, you know, and in our society where everyone's all over the place, you will separate yourself from the masses. And believe me, a lot of people just don't stay the course. They don't stay the course. I hope that you will. I hope that I gave you something to think about. And just remember this. The real magic is knowing what you want and to get focused, but also to stay focused. And you can do it with baby steps. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingpersonsradio.com. Check out Greg at gregdwyer.com. Be sure to download his ebook at gregdwyerebook.com to stay focused on what matters most to you. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com.